I never believed in ghosts. I always thought those haunted corn mazes people put up every Halloween were just for fun. But that year, I learned that there were fields that were not meant for the living to enter. It was Halloween when I was 20. The four of us, me, my boyfriend Luke, and my two best friends Ben and Kayla, decided to go to a super scary corn maze in a remote suburb called Hollow Creek. The drive was longer than we thought. We drove down winding dirt roads, lined with tall, dry cornfields, the wind whistling through the leaves like whispers. When we arrived, a rotten wooden gate appeared in the moonlight, hanging a shaky sign. Hollow Creek Corn Maze, 1 night only. There was no long line of people waiting, just a middle-aged man with a crooked smile selling tickets. His voice was hoarse. "Be careful. If you get lost, don't separate from the group." I forced a smile, thinking he was just playing the role for fun. We walked through the bamboo gate, the lights from the parking lot gradually receding. Inside, the cornfield was like another world. Silent, only the rustling of the wind and the musty smell of damp earth. Kayla held a flashlight, and Ben brought his phone to record a clip for fun-eyed dial. At first, everything seemed normal. Mannequins hanging fake corpses, loudspeakers playing screams. But as we went deeper, the loudspeakers suddenly disappeared. No more music, no more voices, just the sound of our footsteps and cold breaths. Then we heard crying. A child's voice sobbing somewhere in the darkness. Luke shone his flashlight in that direction, but saw only swaying corn leaves, no one. Kayla said shakily, "It must be an actor." But I realized no one hires kids to act in a corn maze in the middle of the night. We kept going, but every turn started to look the same. Ben turned on the GPS. No signal. When I turned back, the path behind me disappeared. Just corn, corn, corn. Then the flashlight flickered. For a moment, I saw a figure standing in the middle of the path, head tilted to one side, long hair covering his face. When the light came back on, there was no one. I screamed, but Luke said, "Calm down, it's just a shadow." Before he could finish, a hand reached out from the middle of the cornfield and grabbed Ben's ankle. He fell face down on the ground, screaming hysterically. When Luke pulled him up, the hand was gone, leaving only a deep mud mark in the dirt, as if someone had crawled out from under the field. Ben gasped, "We have to get out of here. Now! Now!" We ran in all directions, not knowing which way to go. The wind picked up, rustling the corn stalks like 1,000 whispers. "Stay! Stay! Stay with us!" Then Kayla disappeared. A shrill scream rang out behind us, and we turned around, only to see her phone on the ground, the screen still spinning, recording a tall, dark figure dragging her into the cornfield. Luke pulled me running, but I could clearly feel something following. Every time I turned, a corn stalk seemed to shift, closing in behind us. Finally, we saw a small wooden shack, a yellow light flickering inside. We rushed in and slammed the door. There was no one inside, just a tattered sign hanging on the wall written in black charcoal. "They never leave." On the table were some rotten tickets, identical to the ones we had bought. I flipped the first one over and saw a name and picture of a man, Ben Hollow, missing in 1987. The face in the picture was the ticket seller at the gate. Luke grabbed my hand and ran out of the hut, but the door wouldn't open. Outside, the rustling grew louder. I looked through the crack in the door. Scarecrows were coming from somewhere, surrounding the hut. They had sunken eyes, mouths sewn with black thread, and step by step, they were getting closer. Luke banged on the window, but the glass didn't break. I screamed, trying to scream for help, when I heard the same childish voice right next to my ear. "It's your turn." A small, cold hand grabbed my neck from behind. I fell, my vision darkening, and the last thing I saw was Luke's panicked face being pulled back by dozens of arms from the cornfield. The next morning, our car was found abandoned in the parking lot, the keys still in the ignition. None of us were found. But when the police arrived at Hollow Creek, they found no maze, just a vacant lot, corn that hadn't been planted in 30 years. An old sign had fallen into the grass, the words fading. Hollow Creek Corn Maze, open Halloween, night 1987 only. And the locals still say that if you drive by on the night of October 31, you'll see yellow lights flickering in the cornfield, and a voice calling from afar. "One night only, do you dare?" I never liked Halloween. People dressed in costumes, houses covered in fake spider webs, children screaming down the street. To me, it was all just a silly show to hide people's true fears. But that year, I was wrong. On the evening of October 30th, a group of my friends discussed having a big costume party. I was dragged along, even though I wasn't interested. "Come on, Mia. It's just one night. Wear something different for once," my best friend Harper said. So we drove to a deserted neighborhood near the edge of town. There was a thrift store that Harper said was cheap and has a lot of unique stuff. The store was tucked between two abandoned buildings. The old sign, only a few words faded. Black Hollow costumes. When we entered, a cold, musty smell wafted out, as if from a basement that had been neglected for decades. The yellow light flickered on hundreds of dresses hanging close together, swaying silently despite the lack of wind. At the counter stood an old woman with wrinkled skin, shoulder-length silver hair, and cloudy eyes covered in frost. She stared at me without blinking, her smile wrinkled like a crack in a stone statue. I walked down the aisle, past the old costumes. Vampires, mummies, bloody nurses. Until my eyes stopped at a jet-black witch dress, hanging alone in the corner, covered in a thick layer of dust like ash. It seemed different, almost real. The dress was made of black velvet, with silver trim, a pointed hood, and torn lace gloves. Under the light, it reflected a crimson red, like dried blood. As soon as I touched it, a cold current ran down my spine. A small tag attached to the collar read, "No try on, no return." I took the dress to the counter. The old woman laughed coldly, her voice hoarse. "You chose it. It's been waiting for someone to wear it for a long time. The girl before looked beautiful in it, until she was no longer human." I thought she was joking to fit the festive atmosphere, so I just laughed. "Don't wear it past midnight," she added, her voice becoming serious. "Then it will wear you." The next night, We went to a party at a friend's suburban house. Music, flashing lights, the smell of alcohol, candy, and cigarette smoke mixed in the air. When I walked in, everyone was amazed. "Mia, you look like a real witch. Where did that outfit come from? It looks so alive." I just laughed, but I felt the fabric on my body contract with each breath. The later it got, the hotter my neck became. Then it burned. Around 11:45, I felt dizzy and went into the bathroom to take off my suit. I zipped the back. It wouldn't budge. I pulled harder, then harder. The sharp pain made me stop. When I looked in the mirror, I saw that my skin and the fabric were fused together. The seams were bleeding. I tried to cut it with scissors, but the metal snapped. A small voice echoed in my head, clear and cold. "You woke me up." I spun around. No one was there. Only the mirror was fading, as if covered in fog, and a figure in it was smiling at me, though I wasn't smiling. The clock struck 12. The electricity suddenly went out in the house. Only the dim light of the jack-o'-lanterns outside the window. I felt the fabric on my body tighten, as if hundreds of invisible hands were pulling me down. The voice rang out again, clearer this time, echoing through my head. "You gave me a body. Now it's my turn to give you a soul." I fell to my knees, trying to scratch at the fabric, but my nails turned black, long, sharp as claws. My skin darkened, cracked. In the mirror, my face was distorted, yellow eyes, a cracked mouth, white hair. Harper pounded on the door. "Mia, are you okay? Open the door." I tried to answer, but my voice was no longer my own. "Mia isn't here." A hoarse voice came from my mouth. The door swung open and Harper stood frozen. She saw me, or whatever was wearing me. I heard her scream, and then she disappeared into the night. The next morning, the police came. No one had found Harper. And me? They said I was missing. The only thing they found was the black dress, neatly hung in the bathroom, soaked and stained with blood. Rumor had it that Black Hollow Costumes had closed years ago in a fire, and the owner had died in the fire, wearing this very witch dress. But a few weeks later, in a different neighborhood, the store opened again. Same old sign, same words. No try-on, no returns. And the saleswoman was a young woman with black hair, pale yellow eyes, and a very familiar smile. On a new moon night, the entire village of Kalyanpur was so dark that one could not see one's own hand. Even the wind seemed to have stopped, making the air stifling and heavy. In the middle of the path leading into the village, an ancient, abandoned well stood silently, surrounded by bushes, dead trees, and broken branches. For generations, this well had waited for a sacrifice, keeping the curse from the ancestors alive. In the darkness, two men from the village were dragging an unconscious man to the well. Fear and helplessness were written all over their faces. They knew that if they made a sound, everything would fall apart. And if the offering was not made tonight, every member of the family would slowly die. The most recent death, that of their daughter-in-law Anaya, still haunted them. Her screams of pain echoed in their minds. "Stop! What are you doing? Who is this man?" Suddenly, a town inspector appeared and asked what they were doing. Both were stunned. They were descendants of the Verma family, the oldest and most prosperous family in the village. Their faces turned pale. "Don't stop us. This is our tradition. This is our oath to our ancestors. If we don't keep that oath, our entire lineage will be wiped out." The inspector stepped forward and asked, "What tradition? Is it all nonsense?" Then they told about the ancient well ritual, which had lasted for generations. Originally, the well was just a place to draw water, but a priest warned that if people did not follow the family rules, the well would no longer drink water but demand blood. One day, the thirsty priest asked for a few sips to continue his journey, but the ancestors of the Verma family refused. Before leaving, he cursed. "This well will no longer drink water. It will demand blood, and if it does not, it will come after you." At first, the curse was dismissed as superstition. But a few months later, everything in the Verma family began to go downhill. The fields were barren, the business failed, and famine prevailed. To save the family's ancestors sacrificed a villager, knocked him unconscious, and threw him into the well on the night of the new moon. Since then, each generation has had to offer blood to the ancient well. Villagers who had disappeared from the village, including those who strayed into the well on the nights of the new moon, became sacrifices to the curse. A brave young man, Shuresh, who had dared to challenge the well, mysteriously disappeared. His clothes were found neatly on the edge of the well, but he himself was nowhere to be found. Fear spread throughout the village, and everyone understood that the well had become a living curse. The village decided to seek help from Baba Trilok, a famous shaman who had lifted many ancient curses. When Baba arrived, the whole village gathered around the well. He prepared a havan, placed bones, blood-soaked leaves, and panchamri leaves inside. Baba chanted a mantra, hammering an iron nail into the mouth of the well. At that moment, red smoke rose, revealing the faces of the victims, both Anaya and the Verma. An old man in the crowd fainted in fear, but Baba continued chanting. Finally, the mouth of the well was locked with a thick iron bar, and a body tree was planted on top. Baba warned that the well had not completely disappeared. Every new moon night, an old man in the village had to light a lamp and chant mantras, otherwise the well's thirst for blood would awaken again. The new moonlight fell over the village, but the villagers breathed a sigh of relief. The curse was lifted, but any mistake could revive the nightmare. The ancient well still exists, as a symbol of the inevitable destruction if disturbed. Since then, the well has not directly taken human lives, but its curse still exists, silently reminding the whole village that any careless action could cause the bloodlust to rise again. The stories of the ancient well and the sacrifices are told to the next generations. As a permanent warning, whoever dares to disobey will pay the price in blood.
I can hardly bring myself to recount the events I witnessed, but you must hear the truth. It weighs heavily on my soul, and I must confess it, for my heart aches with the burden of it all. I am a man of reason, a man of science, and yet what I have seen has shaken me to the core. It began with my friend, Dr. Henry Jekyll, a man of great intellect and kindness. Jekyll had always been held in high regard among our circle of friends and colleagues. We had known each other for many years, and I admired his work in medicine and chemistry. He was a man of duality, as most of us are, but I had no idea how deep those divisions ran. Dr. Jekyll, as I've come to realize, was a man struggling with a part of himself that he could neither accept nor understand. He had told me about his experiments, his attempts to separate the good from the evil within himself. I remember laughing at him, thinking it a foolish fantasy. But when I learned what he had truly done, I could not laugh any longer. It was late one night when I first encountered Mr. Edward Hyde. I had heard rumors of the man, of his terrible temper, his inexplicable fits of violence, and his strange appearance. People spoke of him with fear, and I admit I was curious to meet him myself. Hyde was known to frequent a shabby building in the poorer part of town, a place I would never have ventured on my own. One evening, as I was passing by, I saw him. Hyde, the very man who had been the subject of our gossip for weeks. He was shorter than I had imagined, but the way he moved, the cruel twist of his smile, and the madness in his eyes made him seem far more menacing than his size suggested. He didn't even acknowledge my presence as I stood watching him, and I felt an involuntary shiver crawl down my spine. After that night, I began to see him more and more often. Hyde would appear on Jekyll's property at strange hours, sometimes even disappearing into the doctor's home at odd times. I confronted Jekyll about it, but he always dismissed my concerns, laughing it off as if Hyde were nothing more than a fleeting acquaintance, nothing to worry about. But I was not convinced. One evening, as I waited in Jekyll's study, I noticed something strange. A vial of strange liquid was sitting on the desk, dark and thick like molasses. Jekyll had been working on a new formula, he told me, something that would bring out the hidden aspects of human nature. He explained it with a sense of quiet pride, but there was something in his eyes that unsettled me. Later that night, I witnessed something I will never forget. It was after midnight when I was awoken by an unnerving sound, a violent crash, and then the unmistakable sound of laughter, but it wasn't Jekyll's voice. It was rough, jagged, full of malice. I rushed to the source of the noise, only to find the laboratory in disarray. The vial shattered on the floor, its contents spilled across the marble tiles. But the most shocking thing was what I saw next. Dr. Jekyll, my friend, was gone. In his place stood the creature I had met before, Hyde. His face twisted into a grotesque grin, and his eyes gleamed with something that resembled madness. The transformation was not subtle. It was as if the very essence of Jekyll had been ripped away, leaving only this vile, monstrous figure in his place. I could hardly comprehend what was happening. My friend, Dr. Jekyll, had vanished, and in his stead was this depraved individual who had terrorized the city. Hyde's appearance, his mannerisms, everything about him was a stark contrast to Jekyll's calm demeanor and intelligence. The very air around him seemed to grow heavy with the presence of evil. Hyde spoke to me in a cold, almost amused tone, explaining the nature of the transformation. He told me how Jekyll had created a potion, a chemical mixture that allowed him to transform into another person, someone without the moral constraints that Jekyll had spent his life adhering to. Hyde was the manifestation of Jekyll's darker desires, his unrestrained urges, freed from the bounds of his conscience. I was stunned. I could hardly believe what he was saying, but the evidence was clear. Hyde was the result of Jekyll's reckless ambition, and the transformation had made him into something entirely separate, an individual who reveled in violence and cruelty. I begged him to stop, to return to the man I had once known, but Hyde only laughed. "You don't understand, utter son," he said. "Jekyll is gone. There is no turning back now. I am free." In that moment, I knew that my friend, Dr. Jekyll, had become a prisoner of his own creation. He had sought to separate the good from the evil within him, and in doing so, he had unleashed a nightmare. I had no choice but to leave. Hyde disappeared again, and Jekyll returned to his normal self. but he was forever changed. The man I once knew was now a shell of himself, tormented by the very thing he had created. I could see the deep sorrow in his eyes, but it was mixed with something darker: fear, regret, and an undeniable longing for the release that Hyde gave him. Over the weeks that followed, I tried to help Jekyll, but every attempt to reach him seemed in vain. His battle with his darker self was a losing one. Eventually, he locked himself away in his laboratory, refusing to see anyone. I did not hear from him for days, and then, one morning, I received a letter from Jekyll's hand. In it, he confessed everything: his experiments, his transformation into Hyde, the horrors he had committed. He told me that he could no longer control Hyde, and that he feared the worst was yet to come. When I arrived at his home, I found the laboratory door locked from the inside. The sound of desperate movements came from within. With a heavy heart, I broke the door down, only to find a lifeless body of my dear friend, Dr. Jekyll. He had taken his own life, unable to bear the horrors Hyde had brought upon him. The letter he left behind was a final plea for forgiveness, a final confession of his tragic mistake. But it was too late. The man who had sought to unlock the secrets of the soul had, in the end, been undone by his own darkness. Now, as I recount these events, I wonder how many of us, deep down, are hiding our own monsters. How many of us would be willing to face the truth of what we are capable of if only we dare to look?
When are you Amit was sitting in his cramped room, staring out of the window as the rain poured heavily outside. The sky flashed with bolts of lightning, making the night even more eerie. The sound of the rain pounding against the window seemed endless, heightening the tension in the air. Amit's mind was clouded with worry. He had moved to the city with high hopes, but after 3 months, he was still without a job, and every penny of his savings was almost gone. His thoughts were interrupted by a sudden knock on the door. Who could be at my door at this hour, especially in this kind of downpour? A mix of fear and curiosity stirred inside Amit. "Who's there?" He called out softly, slowly opening the door. A young woman, around 25, stood drenched from the rain. Her body was visibly shaking from the cold, and water dripped from her wet hair. She clutched a bag tightly, as though it was her most precious possession. "Excuse me," she said, her voice trembling. "My car broke down nearby, and I can't go anywhere in this rain. Could I stay here for a while?" Amit eyed her cautiously. There was a car parked in the distance behind her, but he remained suspicious. What's a woman doing out here at this hour? Could she be up to something? She doesn't seem like the type. Despite his doubts, Amit decided to act out of basic human kindness. "All right, come in. It's too dangerous to stand out there in the rain." The woman stepped inside, and Amit handed her a towel. "Sit down. I'll make you some tea." A few minutes later, Amit returned with the tea, and she accepted it with a soft smile. "Thank you. My name is Neha," she explained. "I was on my way from a nearby town, but the car broke down. I couldn't find anyone to help, so I came here. I hoped to get some assistance." Amit smiled back and introduced himself. "I'm Amit. I came here to find work. This area can feel a little eerie at night, though. Not many people around." Neha nodded while sipping her tea. For a moment, silence hung in the room, only broken by the sound of the rain tapping against the window. Neha suddenly spoke up. "Could I use your phone? My battery's dead." Amit handed her his phone, and she dialed a number. After a brief conversation, she hung up. "Yes, I'm safe. Everything will be fine tonight," she said before disconnecting the call. Just as Amit was about to ask something, the lights flickered and went out, plunging the room into darkness. Amit quickly turned on the flashlight on his phone and began scanning the room. But Neha was gone. Where did she go? Amit thought, panic creeping into his chest. He searched the room frantically, but she was nowhere to be found. Then, another knock echoed through the silence. Amit opened the door, and to his relief, it was his friend, Arvind. "Hey, Amit, why do you look so anxious at this hour?" Arvind asked, noticing his friend's distressed expression. "Having a bad dream or something?" Amit quickly explained the strange situation with Neha. Arvind frowned in concern. "What were you thinking, letting a stranger in like that?" Arvind said, his voice laced with worry. "You know how many strange things have been happening in this city lately." "But she left, and all that's left is her bag," Amit replied. Both of them looked at the bag. Arvind slowly unzipped it. The moment he saw inside, his face drained of color, and he took a step back. "Inside this bag is Neha's severed head," Arvind exclaimed. Amit stared at him in shock. "Neha? How do you know her?" In a daze, Amit peered into the bag, expecting the gruesome sight. But instead of a head, there was a folded note. The note read, "Your work is over tonight." Amit turned to Arvind, his voice tense. "Do you know Neha?" Arvind's face turned ghostly pale. He stammered, "Yes, I knew her. She was my fiancée. Amit's heart raced. Then what is all this, Arvind? He demanded. Arvind's trembling voice confessed, I killed Neha. It was the biggest mistake of my life. In my desperation for wealth, I visited a so-called tantric, who told me that if I sacrificed Neha, my fate would change. I did it out of greed. I killed her. Worry. Amit's legs wobbled. And now her soul has come back to take revenge? He whispered. Arvind bowed his head. Yes, Amit. She's here to make me confess my crimes. Amit's voice shook with fear. I was talking to a ghost just now. Just then, the lights flickered back on, and the room was illuminated. Amit and Arvind froze when they saw Neha sitting silently in the corner, her head hanging low, her body still. A low sob escaped from her. Amit and Arvind stood frozen, unable to move. Arvind, gathering his courage, began to walk toward her, trembling. Neha, please, forgive me. I never meant for this to happen. It was my selfishness, my greed. Arvind began, his voice quivering. Slowly, Neha raised her head, revealing deep cuts on her cheeks, blood dripping from the open wounds. Her eyes burned with a mix of pain and anger. But there was also something chilling in her gaze. You never even tried to save me, she whispered. So I thought I should come to you instead. Arvind's eyes filled with tears as he collapsed to his knees. Neha, I love you. Please forgive me. Suddenly, Neha's face twisted into a horrifying smile. She chuckled softly, then said, Oh, my dear Arvind, you really started crying, didn't you? The laughter grew louder, more sinister. Arvind, still kneeling in front of her, tried to speak, but was paralyzed with fear. Before he could utter a word, Neha's fingers, sharp as knives, reached toward his neck. Arvind tried to break free, but Neha's grip was inhumanly strong. She smiled coldly. Where will you go now, Arvind? You can't escape. With one swift motion, Neha's fingers dug into his neck, tearing through flesh and bone. Arvind's screams choked in his throat, and in the next instant, his head was completely severed from his body, falling to the floor with a sickening thud. A fountain of blood sprayed across the walls, painting them red. Neha picked up Arvind's severed head and held it up to her eyes, her smile widening. You thought I would forgive you that easily, she mocked. Amit stood frozen in horror, unable to look away. His heart pounded in his chest, his breath coming in short gasps. The room seemed to darken, the walls closing in. Amit felt his body grow weak, his limbs heavy. And then, everything went black. Sleep now, my dear. Neha's voice echoed in the shadows. Sleep and become mine forever.
Some houses are built from wood, brick, or concrete. Others are built from memories and promises made in blood. This one had 7 rooms, but on the night she turned 28, an 8th appeared. Sarah lived in a Victorian townhouse passed down from her grandmother. Creaky, ancient, but full of character. There were 7 rooms, 1 bedroom, 1 bath, 1 kitchen, 1 attic, 1 basement, 1 sitting room, and 1 locked storage room she was told never to open. On the night of her 28th birthday, Sarah woke up to find a new hallway at the back of the house. At the end of it, a door she had never seen before. It had no handle, only a dark knothole in the center, faintly pulsing, like a heartbeat. Searching the attic, Sarah found a hidden box of her grandmother's belongings. Inside was a leather-bound journal written in looping cursive. Its pages were filled with runes, moon phases, diagrams of the house, overlaid with something that wasn't there. The final pages were smeared in dry blood. One sentence repeated, "Do not open the 8th room until it calls you by name." That night, the door whispered. Sarah, the door opened. Behind the door, a spiral staircase leading downward, deeper than the house should allow. She descended for what felt like hours. The air grew warm, then hot, then wet. The walls pulsed as if they were breathing. Voices began to hum in unison, a low, harmonic chant from no clear direction. At the bottom, she found a perfect replica of her living room, but it was covered in soot and ash. In the center sat a mirror, and in the mirror, not her, but someone wearing her face, smiling too wide. The reflection spoke. "We were promised your skin. You are the last of your blood." Suddenly, invisible hands dragged Sarah into a circle of symbols. Her body began to stretch, limbs pulled in 7 directions. A deep hum shook the room. 7 doors appeared around her. Each door creaked open. Inside, twisted versions of Sarah, broken, altered, screaming. They crawled toward her. She screamed back, but the reflection stepped out of the mirror. It crawled forward, slow, deliberate, and tore its own face off, then wore hers. Sarah's body went limp. Her mind sank beneath the surface. The next morning, neighbors saw Sarah outside, waving politely. She seemed cheerful, calm, but at night, they saw her again. 2 of her, one walking through the hall, the other inside the mirror, watching. The 8th room had vanished again, but when guests visited, they sometimes heard footsteps behind a wall, in a room that didn't exist. Some claimed they heard their own names whispered. Eventually, the house was sold. The new owners never found anything unusual until one night, their daughter woke them, crying. The lady with the same face as Mommy said, "I'm the next one." When they asked where she saw the woman, she pointed down the hallway to a door with no handle. It wasn't there yesterday, but tonight it's waiting.